Hey there, this is Tracy Tim, and you are watching the Nth Degree TV, the place to be to take your career from stuck to unstoppable. I love having you watch all of our videos, but today I'm especially excited because it is Testimonial Tuesday, and we are talking not with just a member, a recent graduate, and now a current member of my team here at the Nth Degree, but also her spouse. And the reason that I think this is really important to see is that when I first started this business, I thought I'd be working honestly with a lot of young professionals who were unmarried, unencumbered, didn't have homes, didn't have a whole lot of responsibilities, and had a lot of physical and financial freedom to kind of go about their business however they want. And within the first couple years, I learned that that was not the case. And in fact, a lot of the people that I wanted to work with and that I knew that we could deeply serve had life partners, had spouses, had husbands and wives, had people in their lives who were a deep intrinsic part of their decision-making process, and then would also become a deep and intrinsic part of their transformation process. And so over the years, I've realized that having your partner be an active part of this process is a make or break part of your eventual transition to full career clarity and living unplugged and in full alignment with work you love that allows you to be amazing at what you do something that's impactful and meaningful every day, and make great money all at the same time. So what we're going to do today is talk to Thomas and Priscilla. Say hi to everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, you lovely people. And in particular, we're going to be focused not on Priscilla, who's the graduate of the program, but actually her husband, Thomas, who was, like I said, an integral part of their decision-making process, support throughout the program, and then now is, of course, the beneficiary of having a spouse who loves going to work every single day, which, of course, doesn't suck, right? So it doesn't suck. Can I get confirmation, Thomas, that it doesn't suck?
It doesn't suck.
Oh, there we go. All right, interview over. No. So yeah, you guys, I really think that what you've highlighted for me is how supportive two people can be of each other, and then how important it is to have that person in your life, not only on your team, but sort of actively a part of this process with you when they're available to do so. So, Thomas, I'd love for you to start by sharing with us a little bit about how you found out about this program altogether, and what that initial conversation with Priscilla was like.
Initially, well, for background purposes, I've actually known Tracy since we were in middle school. So I just happened to know who you are and stuff you were doing. But it was actually, you had actually done an event with my brother's construction, not his company, but he's in like a leadership group. And so you had actually done a workshop with them. And he actually was singing your praises about how awesome it was and the information that they received, and the group, the meeting was fantastic. And so Priscilla was we were just at some gathering, I guess, and he was basically hearing her say, like, she's not really happy with her work or whatever. And he was just like, well, if you're thinking about looking at another job or career field, then you should definitely check this out. And so that was kind of the initial, I already knew that Tracy was doing this, but I didn't really know exactly what this was, to be fair. And so I knew that she was doing what she is doing, but I didn't know about the program details or what it entailed. So my brother Michael really sort of pushed us to kind of explore what it was. And so then we kind of went from there. So Michael kind of told us what the workshop was about. And then we contacted Tracy to kind of ask questions about, well, what is this thing that you're doing? Because my brother seemed to be pretty enthused about it. So that was kind of how we got started in the first place.
Perfect. So I think that, no matter how or when you come into contact with something like this, it's the first time. There aren't a whole lot of people out there talking about career clarity as a strategy. There are tons of people talking about professional development or career coaching. But this is really unique. And so I hear that a lot, where people are like, I see what you're kind of doing, but is it this or is it this? And so in our initial conversation, it was actually just me and Priscilla talking through, what are you really going through? How are you feeling? How is that impacting the rest of your life? And what have you tried so far? And why hasn't it really been as effective as you were hoping? And this is something I see all the time with spouses and partners, is that I'll have a really amazing conversation with one of them, and then the other one is the recipient of how long is this going to take and how much is it going to cost? And and that's like the extent of their whole conversation. And that can be a lot to take in when you have no background and you weren't involved in the original conversation. So what was that process like after Priscilla and I connected, where you two had a conversation, and how did that evolve?
Well, initially, Priscilla was really excited. Like, she was just like, this sounds like exactly what I want to do, and this will really help me figure it out, because again, we were in a transition of like, okay, not only is she unhappy with her job, but she's really unhappy with the whole career field area that she was in. So we were talking about big changes, like going back to school to getting a degree, and maybe even a master's degree, with having to do one job for a couple of years to even be qualified to do the next job. Like, we had a whole like career and life shift sort of that we had planned and talked about, and it was kind of like, well, before we do all that, let's make sure that that's it. So she was like, this is definitely what we need to do first to try to figure this out before we spend all this money on college and everything else. Like, let's make sure we're doing the right thing first. So she was super excited from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And because she knows me, she didn't lead with the price. Sort of led with the fact that it will be beneficial first. And then when the question was, what's the price and how long is it going to take, came up, and she was sort of like, well, it's not cheap. And so, yeah, so I was initially kind of like, well, yeah, that's going to be, that's going to be an investment. We'll have to, let's think about that. But I think actually the next thing that I did was called you, which, to be fair, and I think I told you this personally, was that if it wasn't your program and if I didn't know you personally, I probably would have been like, nope, definitely not. We're not. But like I said, really what it came down to in our final decision was the fact that I did happen to have a personal relationship and know and trust you as a person, which led to being comfortable with knowing that you're going to take care of us and not take advantage of us. So that was really what it came down to, was I just trusted you as a person. And so because of that, I was able to say, okay. But honestly, if it wasn't you and it was just some other person I didn't know offering the same services, we probably never would have done the program. So that just, for people that don't know you, they don't have the benefit of that, but they should get to know you, and then they can.
Well, hey, look what we're here to do. That's beautiful. That means so much to me, and we do go way back, and it was so fascinating for me because I knew you so well and had met, obviously, Priscilla a handful of times, to realize I knew nothing about her professional journey and what you guys were about to commit to as a family. And, as much as you and I have supported each other over the years, I just thought that was so fascinating to see, wow, like, this is a moment where I feel really good about what I'm offering to them. I feel 100% confident in what we're charging to do it, given what the outcome is. And I can offer that to a lifelong friend's spouse with like the utmost integrity. And it was a really big moment for me. And so it's fun is to have us on the back end of that whole process now, talking about what it was like in the beginning. Cause I think that's a really important thing for people to know, because inevitably, if you're watching this, the chances of you knowing me personally are pretty slim, especially since 6th grade. So, right. The only thing that I can do at this point is let our results speak for themselves, and have people like you guys who have the benefit of knowing me and the integrity that I pour into this business all the time, and sharing that with people who don't have that benefit. So I really appreciate you saying that. And I'm so glad that you said yes, because look where we are now. Yay! So talk a little bit about what it was like for you, Thomas, and the family while Priscilla was going through the program. So taking a little bit of time away, spending some time doing a lot of introspection. Like, how did that work for you guys as a couple and a family?
Can we talk about what life was like when I was in the job that I hated?
Oh, yes, this is good.
And then move through.
Priscilla, why don't you share a little bit about that as well?
Oh no, it was just tragic. Like, my life, everything it seemed really sad. I was sad all the time. I was tired. I remember being tired all the time. Didn't really have energy to take my girls to the park. Didn't really have energy to do anything but like work and then maybe get dinner on the table and then just pass out after my kids went to bed. Mm-hmm. It was like every day was like that, and it was just draining. Yeah.
And her job before, you wouldn't think would be that, because she worked from home online, and she was able to work whatever, like she could choose her hours. She had to work 8 hours every day, but not every day, 5 days a week, but she could choose which one. So you would think, oh, that sounds like perfect. You know, I wish I could choose which hours. I'll take these hours off and I'll do lunch here and I'll go do this with my friends and I'll come back and I'll work on whatever. It sounds like, oh, that's a perfect scenario, but it was terrible. And it wasn't terrible because of that. It was just not a great situation. And she just was really unhappy. The nature of her work made her unhappy. She's very social, and her job was not, you know, things like that. So there was a whole host of reasons why that job did not connect. But and actually, the fact that she was as unhappy as she was, but working full time, transitioning into the program part of it was that we talked about, well, you know, if she's going to take the commitment, and I think the idea moving into the program was realistically she was going to set aside 10 hours a week to try to focus on the program, which is what she did. So we're like, well, you're working 40 hours a week now, and we're kind of barely hanging on. The idea of adding 10 hours to make that 50 hours a week is probably realistic. So we talked about going down to part-time, and I think we did that for a few weeks. But then it reached a point where she was just trying – she was enjoying the program, but also realizing through the program how unhappy she was with her work, that we ultimately decided for her to just quit her work entirely for the last probably month of the program or whatever, and just focus on the program and everything else, because it was hard to continue to do something that you really hate when you're learning about what you should be doing or want to be doing better or differently. So ultimately the transition was, she ended up quitting her job entirely. And I know not everybody's going to be able to do that for financial reasons. And really, we weren't at a place where that was.
Really, no.
We really weren't at a place where that worked either. I mean, we basically had to dip into savings for that month to sustain ourselves. Luckily, again, we had the savings available. Again, not everybody will.
Yeah.
But we were at a place where that was an option. It wasn't like it hurt financially to do it, but we could do it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how we transitioned, because it was just too much to try to do both.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. Yeah. Which I know I remember for, Priscilla was challenging, because you're going through this transformation process, and as you've shared in other conversations that have been shared publicly, there wasn't always certainty about what the outcome was going to look like.
Yeah.
So I imagine you too, Thomas, like seeing her sort of there and then not sure, and then definitely we're not going to move forward with the plan that we had. But how did you navigate the uncertainty of those couple weeks and months, as a partner?
Well, to be fair, we kind of said, like, worst case scenario is that we spend the money on the program and find out that the plans we wanted to do in the first place were correct.
Yeah.
That was the worst.
That was the worst. because then she would have been she was actually enrolled in college coursework to begin that next semester, because this was in the summer. So when she left her work, she was gonna start school anyways. That was kind of the plan.
Yeah.
So regardless, it was like we were transitioning into knowing we were about to take out some serious debt. So we were.
That's an understatement.
So we were already sort of mentally prepared for the financial burden of what we were doing anyway. So that's kind of where we were at, was like, well, worst case is we spend the money for the program, and then we find out that everything we were planning is perfect, and so we just move forward with what we were doing anyways, and continue to pile on the debt just for kicks. But luckily, like I said, what we ended up discovering was that the plan that we had lined up was really a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Little did we know. And so that was, for us, that was the benefit of the program, was it was not so much what it did offer, but what it sort of highlighted as far as what wasn't right. What we thought we knew about the next steps that turned out to be wrong. And that was our best guess as to what, looking at ourselves and looking at what she thought she wanted and what I thought we wanted and what work environment we thought was going to work. And through your program, basically realizing like, wow, a lot of things we thought we knew about ourselves was wrong. Turns out we don't know ourselves at all.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, you're not alone. There's so many people, so many families, so many young professionals and older professionals even who are doing, good old fashioned like hard work and introspection and self-discovery and reading the books and watching the programs and, doing the things that they think will actually move the needle and lead to clarity. And then you get to a point where you do feel fairly clear, only to find out that there was a lot of misinformation, that you're operating from.
Yeah.
That's crazy. To me, it's just so crazy. I love to be on this side of it, right? We're all laughing about it right now. But it was a process of unlearning and then a new process of self-discovery that really, I think, allowed Priscilla to realize what's my best and highest value and how can I give that in the world in a way where our family and I receive the most value back. So it was really just a fun process to watch.
Well, and I think it's also challenging to really be in the right frame of mind to decide what's best, like, as opposed to what's better.
I like that.
When you hate your job, anything else seems better, and it probably is. It might be one step up, but if you could take 5 steps up instead of 1, like that's kind of where we're at. Because we would have been better than we were, but we still may have been unhappy in the long run. So it's not that wouldn't have been a step up, and that's kind of how a lot of careers develop. Is like, I just try to get that next job or the next promotion, and that's better than the one I had before, which typically ends up being true. But there's a whole nother level somewhere that you may never find if that's the linear path you take. So
I love that. What's best or what's better? We're gonna market that pretty hard. It's so true though. Thank you. Very much appreciate you. You've been lovely. So you're just so absolutely right, because we can either be reacting to the situation that we're in, or we can be proactively seeking our ideal solution. And I think that was the major transition that you're talking about, is that we were able to take, you, Priscilla, out of an environment where you were living in a very reactionary, I just want something better place, and put you in a mindset of like, well, what's the best? Like, if I could have it all, what would that look like? And so let's talk about the results. So how are you guys doing now? How have the dynamics changed? What are the major things that you've seen that have been a benefit from saying yes?
Well, definitely, like, again, she actually enjoys work as opposed to hating it, which is good. Like, it's for me personally, because she'll still work from home some days, and I see her sitting at the same computer, sometimes in the same place, but now she looks happy as opposed to looking miserable. Or she'll laugh and be happy about what she's doing, and especially when she's actually like interacting, via coaching calls or other stuff where she's actually doing the work with people and seeing them grow. That type of work for her is just so rewarding, and the work she was doing before just wasn't. Like, it wasn't that there was bad work. It just wasn't. It just didn't connect with her in a way that her job now does. And so it just makes life easier on my end, just to have a spouse that's happier. And it's not all perfect. We have our issues that we're still working through and everything else. But as far as the career itself goes, that's just a big puzzle piece that's better. And I actually think it's been somewhat not difficult, but part of the challenge has been transitioning mentally from working in a job that you really don't like to working in a job that you do like, and taking some of those systems mentally with you and realizing, like, I did this before, but I don't have to do that anymore. Different coping mechanisms you set aside and structured to get through your workday before that are it's not necessary anymore, but it's a habit you develop. So it's trying to break some of those habits of just the work day and mental, like how you process what work is. And that's actually been probably the hardest transition, is just realizing like I do like what I do. I don't have to be upset about it, or I don't wake up going like, God, do I want to work today? You know, like it's oh, these are the things I get to do today. You know, so it's just a whole different mental approach to what you're doing, and that's been I think one of the biggest just differences. So.
I love it. Priscilla, do you have anything you want to add to that from your perspective?
Yeah, I think when I was going through the program, there were times where, you know, he would still have to take the girls to the park and pick up some of that slack. But I think even the outcome is, now that I'm in a rewarding job that I really love, that I feel empowered to do. Now I have energy. I go to the gym. I play with my girls. I cook dinner. You know, I have the energy to do things now that I didn't have the energy to do before. And I think that's made all the difference in our family life for me.
I love that. Because it's, I mean, gosh, like when you hate what you're doing, in my mind, you're doing two jobs. Like you're spending the energy to do the job that you have to do anyway, but you have to build up that energy and sustain it through something you don't enjoy, which takes even more out of you. And so instead of working a 40-hour week, 8 hours a day, you're working the equivalent of an 80-hour week, 5 days a week. And you can't overstate that, because we only have a limited amount of like grit and energy, and you can get through it. But I think what you guys have discovered is having something that's sustainable over time really frees up all that extra space to be the spouse you want to be, and the mom you want to be, and the family that you want to have. And so I'm really thankful that you guys are sharing your experience, because I know there's so many people out there who think that for whatever reason, staying in the job that they have, whether it's the money or the benefits or the time off or the flexibility, or right, like you had amazing flexibility in theory.
Right.
Right.
For whatever reason, they feel like they have to stay because that's the best thing to do as a spouse and a parent and a member of a family. That's the responsible thing to do. And it's hard to break out of that mold. Like you said, it's hard to let go of that old mindset and kind of unlearn that process of explaining your decisions to yourself, right? So thank you guys so much for sharing. If I have one last question, and maybe both of you can answer this together. I mean, you don't have to do it at the same time. But 1, 2, no. We end up serving a lot of members of couples, and sometimes even couples together. So if one or both people in a relationship are going through this mentally, and they're thinking about investing in something like a career clarity program, giving us a call and just learning more about what we do, what advice would you give them if they're somewhat hesitant or worried about what the outcome might be?
I would say, first off, try to approach it open-minded, but also try to look at your life as the whole picture, because again, your career is only part of what you do and what makes you who you are. But what the program helps to discover for yourself is more about who you are and what makes you work well. There was a lot of conversations we had about this is just how I process these things, or I don't handle these things well, or this makes more sense. Stuff that, again, within a marriage is like, that kind of explains why you've always been this way or that way, or done this thing or that thing. So some of the answers that you're going to discover through this program are going to help you in areas of your life beyond just your career, as far as understanding and knowing yourself. And so in a relationship, it's beneficial. So really, what you're going to get from this goes beyond just, oh, good, now I have a new job. But the sort of self-discovery aspect of it will benefit for her. It'll benefit you as the participant, but it'll benefit the relationship, because you'll understand yourself more. And if you can communicate more clearly about why you may do certain things a certain way, or why you need certain things a certain way, that's not just a career change. That's sort of a holistic shift in your life. So taking that into account, recognizing like, yes, this program is designed to help you find work that you don't hate, but the benefits go beyond that if you really dive in and give everything to the program. So just be honest with yourself about like, am I just happy with my life right now? And if the answer is no, then it's worth giving it a try. So
yeah, and I think just to piggyback on that before moving on to my own, it helps empower you to articulate your needs, and it helps capitalize your strengths in a way that, yeah, definitely resonates way beyond your workspace. It really helps you function in life, like in all areas of life, from your marriage to your parenting to your community and how you serve well, and realizing that like you have superpowers and it's okay that you're not good at everything, and these are the things that I am great at, which just resonates into literally every corner of your being. And then I would also say, to answer your question, is it's really easy to sort of be the martyr in your family. It's really easy to forego something that you may really need for the good for everyone else. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's that same line of thinking. For the good of everybody else, I'm gonna make the investment in myself. That I would really encourage people to think about, because if you're unhappy in your job, if you don't have that kind of clarity, it's already affecting everybody around you. So for your and their sake, it might be a good investment to actually get that clarity and start work that you love.
I love that. It's so true. They know already. You're not hiding anything.
Yeah.
I just adore you guys so much. Thank you for sharing your testimonial with everybody. And I really believe that this is going to speak to so many people who, we have so many people who say yes and so many people who say no. And oftentimes it does come down to that other person in their life either being a supporting member or somebody who's like sort of silently holding them in a place where they feel stuck. And you guys are such a great testimony to what it can look like from a holistic perspective to invest in one part of your life and see the ripple effects, throughout the rest of it. So thank you guys so much for doing this. I really adore you both and appreciate you so much.
You're welcome.
So if this story has resonated with you at all, I really just encourage you to lean into that feeling. I find that things like this fall into my life just at the right time, and that's what we're trying to do here for you. If you found this video and this is calling to your heart and you feel like, wow, they're speaking my language, like I want career clarity, I want my job to empower me to be better in the rest of my life, including the people that I spend my life with, then don't wait. You owe it to yourself to learn more about this and to hopefully pursue something with us if it's a good fit. So if that's you, please go to tracytim.com/clarity. That's TracyTimm.com/clarity. And you can book your free 50-minute Get Unstuck clarity call with me or with a member of my team. And on that call, what we're going to do is talk about what's really holding you back in your career in terms of limitations, what's actually got you stuck. And then, as we talked about today, we're going to help you really deeply understand how that's impacting other areas of your life, meaning how else are you suffering or living in struggle because of this one small part of what's really going on in your career. And then we're going to figure out how ready you are to make a difference in this area, whether it's time to move forward or not. And if we're a good fit to work together, then I'm more than happy to tell you about our programs and services, as Priscilla would be too, as one of the newest members of our team. So again, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time right here on the Nth Degree TV.